7 years ago, spring came late. It was a May afternoon when I went out to the backyard to hang sheets on the clothesline for the first time that spring. Thankful for the warm sun on my face. It was windy, the perfect prairie day for line-dried sheets. As I hung the sheets, I thought I smelled smoke, but shrugged it off with the thought that it was way too windy a day for controlled burns. I decided to head into town to run a couple of errands, and when I was turning out of my lane onto the grid road, I looked to the right and saw fire. The fire spread quickly, like wildfire, which is what it was. Up the shelter belt, through the canola stubble, and up to the tree line that surrounded my house. My neighbor arrived to till the soil around my property, and the firefighters arrived in engines with blow-up pools of water to soak the ground. But all I could do was sit and watch while the fire lapped at my life, threatening to turn it all to ash, to dust. That day, the fire burned up to the tree line and no further. And when I went to survey the charred remains of the ground and the fence posts, I thought about what would have been had the fire reached the Quonset, the house, the kids. It didn't happen that day in May, but my life has been left scorched. Maybe yours has too. Sometimes we light the match ourselves. We make choices that destroy us and hurt the people we love. We shatter relationships with our words and actions. We burn it down. Other times, it happens to us. Someone dies, and all we are left with is ashes. A relationship ends, a job is lost, a faith, certainty dies, or trust does, or hope. Our health declines. Our life begins to ebb away. COVID comes and lasts over a year. Some years we can hide from the truth that life turns to dust. This year, it's a lot harder to pretend. Dust, ashes, vapor, Havel. We live in a world that values perfection and independence, success and strength, beauty and youth, potential. It's hard to find a place that tells the truth about the end, about our limitations, about our sin. Welcome to Ash Wednesday. When we receive the ashes on our foreheads, we receive them with these words: "From dust you came, and to dust you shall return." And these words are from Genesis 3, part of the curse God speaks over Adam and Eve after they eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree God told them not to eat from. It is the first story of us burning our lives down. The first story of sin, the first story of loss, of shame, of separation. The serpent tells Adam and Eve that the limitations God has placed on them will surely not lead to death. But as soon as the fruit has been swallowed, they know they've been sold a bill of goods. Shame hits and they panic. They realize that they have ruined everything. They have tried to live as though they can experience all of life without restraint. They have lived as though they are not dependent, and they have stepped right into a big pile of mortality. And so they hide. They sew garments to cover their shame, their vulnerability. They hide from the holy gardener, from God, and they blame one another. This is what Genesis says. Immediately, the two of them did see what's really going on. They saw themselves naked. They sewed fig leaves together as makeshift clothes for themselves, and when they heard the sound of God strolling in the garden in the evening breeze, the man and his wife hid in the trees of the garden, hid from God. God called to the man, "Where are you?" He said, "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and so I hid." And God said, "Who told you that you were naked? Did you eat from the tree I told you not to eat from?" And the man said, Well, the woman you gave me as a companion, she gave me fruit from the tree, and yeah, I ate it. And God said to the woman, "What is this that you've done?" "The serpent seduced me," she said, "and I ate." We too hide when we are caught in the act. We avoid one another rather than telling the truth about our hurt and our mistakes. We let resentments grow and sow seeds of deception, lies on lies. We shimmy around God, pretending we are too busy to pray, avoiding eye contact like we avoid talking to an acquaintance in the grocery store. We too clothe our vulnerability and our shame with leaves. We cover our insecurities with bravado. We cover our shame with influence, with success, with stuff. We pretend our actions don't affect others or that we have good reason to do what we do. She gave me the apple, God. What was I supposed to do? We blame, we misrepresent, we give ourselves the easy way out, but not today, not on Ash Wednesday. Today we say, I am that sad. I am that broken. I did that wrong thing. I lit the match. I am overcome with grief. I can't get out of bed. I am addicted. I am out of control. I am afraid. I have been hiding. I am sick and will not get well. I will die. Perhaps this is the news of Ash Wednesday. The fruit is already eaten, honey. There's the rotting core right there. Now, do not hide. From dust you came, to dust you will return. Now, Ash Wednesday is not celebrated on its own. It's the beginning of the 40 days of Lent when Christians have traditionally fasted in order to prepare for Easter. And this gives us a clue as to why Christians have marked Ash Wednesday. And this is it. That underneath all of our attempts to hide, underneath our fear, our shame, our vulnerability, is the need not for perfection, not for control back, not for our youth back, not even for a redo. We need resurrection. When we awaken to our mortality, we also awaken to our only hope. The way of resurrection is to admit first that things are as bad as they really are, because God is the king of the plot twist. And when we acknowledge that things are as bad as they really are, we're in a great place for a plot twist. God appears like a gardener in the first 3 chapters of Genesis as God tends to Eden and to humanity. But there's a reappearance of the gardener later in the scriptures. Listen to this story from John, just after Jesus' crucifixion. But Mary stood outside the tomb weeping. And as she wept, she knelt to look into the tomb and saw 2 angels sitting there dressed in white, one at the head and the other at the foot of where Jesus' body had been laid. And they said to her, "Woman, why do you weep?" "They took my master," she said, "and I don't know where they put him." And after she said this, she turned away and saw Jesus standing there, but she didn't recognize him. Jesus spoke to her, "Woman, why do you weep? Who are you looking for?" And she, thinking that he was the gardener, said, "Sir, if you took him, tell me where you put him so I can care for him." Jesus said, "Mary." And turning to face him, she said in Hebrew, "Rabboni," meaning teacher. Death, despair, ash, dust, a gardener, a grave, but also resurrection. The bad news is this: you will die. The good news is this: death is the very thing needed for resurrection. Blessing the Dust by Jan Richardson. All those days you felt like dust, like dirt, as if all you had to do was turn your face toward the wind and be scattered to the four corners, or swept away by the smallest breath as insubstantial. Did you not know what the Holy One can do with dust? This is the day we freely say we are scorched. And this is the hour we are marked by what has made it through the burning. This is the moment we ask for the blessing that lives within the ancient ashes, that makes its home inside the soil of this sacred earth. So let us be marked, not for sorrow, and let us be marked, not for shame. Let us be marked not for false humility or for thinking we are less than we are, but for claiming what God can do within the dust, within the dirt, within the stuff of which the world is made, and the stars that are born in our bones, and the galaxies that spiral inside the smudge we bear.